Well, hello neighbors. John, your whiskey neighbor here. Welcome to my deck and happy Canada Day. Today is certainly a treat for me. I have some samples from Foodquig. Thanks so much, Quig. You're very generous. And I still have this bottle of 40-year-old Canadian that my wife gave me a while back. Maybe I'm treating it too gently. I've kept it on the shelf for a while. But today I want to talk through some of what I'm sure is some of the best Canadian whiskey around. Very appropriate for Canada Day. And I hope you have something to pour along. Pour something old, pour something Canadian if you have it. And we'll talk whiskey together for a little while.
3, 4.
Thanks for staying with me through the short break. This is really a Canada Day treat for me. This is the first day of my summer holiday. It's Canada Day, and I must admit, I've been holding on to these samples from Foodquig and waiting for the time I could pour them, share them with you, and just enjoy them. The first sample I have here is J.P. Wiser Seasoned Oak. Then I'm going to go to J.P. Wiser 35-year-old. Then we'll stop by at Canadian Club 40-year, and we'll end with Canadian Club 41-year-old. So I've put them in order of age, and then I'll try to talk about each one and just share a bit of what I'm nosing and tasting. I'm not sure. Samples are really a lousy place to put a number in terms of review, but I can certainly let you know if I'm enjoying it or not. So first up is J.P. Wiser Seasoned Oak. This came out only in Ontario. I appreciate that they have, and I think Mark, I caught your video this morning. You were doing Wheat Gold or something. I didn't even know about that. It was an exclusive bottle to Manitoba. It's unique that J.P. Wiser will put out a bottle only in BC, like 52, or only in Ontario Seasoned Oak, only in Manitoba. Wheat Gold or Wheat, I can't remember what it is, but the point is, I think it's special. It says, hey, you know what, you guys, you can have your own whiskey. Very frustrating for whiskey collectors like myself or people that really want to taste everything you put out, but I think it's kind of cool. Seasoned Oak came out only in Ontario. It's a 19-year-old whiskey. What I understand is the older whiskey, the majority of it is corn, probably in refill oak, but then there's a substantial amount of rye in here, the same kind of rye in lot 40, so that'd be column and pot, but at a smaller percentage. But what makes this kind of unique is the seasoned oak. Oh, it's released at 48%, and that 48 is an Easter egg. I think Dr. Don Livermore puts Easter eggs in just shy of everything he does, but is that the oak here, you always dry season or dry cure oak, right, when you're going to make it into casks. But usually it's for a short amount of time. In this case, as I understand it, the oak sat out in the sun seasoning for 48 months, hence the 48%. Then it was built into casks. Now, this was not aged for 19 years in that heavily seasoned oak. As I understand, it was aged, for that 18 years in refill. The rye was probably in refill virgin oak. And then, they were blended, and then they were seasoned, finished in the seasoned oak, maybe for a year. I don't really know all those numbers, but that's a pretty good sense of what's going on in here. And I've never had it, so we'll see what it is. I think you'd recognize this as J.P. Wiser. It's got a little bit of a floral, light vanilla, a bit of cream, already a bit of spice. Spice builds a little bit, whether that's that oak spice or the rye spice is unclear right now. Yeah, and just staying in that light toffee or light caramel, not really cooked or heavy, just sort of a, vanilla, light toffee, butter, and spicing. That's the nose. Should I nose them all and then taste them? I guess. Yeah, why not? Go through the nosing. So then the information will come out first. I'll try to be quick, but this is a gift to me. I mean, these are a gift to me, and it's a treat to sit out here on the deck and talk whiskey. So the next one is Wiser 35-year-old. It's bottled at 40%, so 2% stronger than the seasoned oak. Of course, it's older, 35%. However, I believe what's in here is very similar in the sense that it is a... in fact, one writer said it's the same ratio of mostly corn, aged very long in reused refill casks, and then a smaller percentage of rye. Some writers have said that the rye might be younger than 35 years, and that is a bit of a challenge for me. I understand the 1 cask out of 11 can be something else, the 909% Canadian rule. And we're going to get to that for sure with the 41-year-old, but I always thought that was other spirit. I really felt if they put an age stamp on it, it had to represent the age of the spirit. And now I'm hearing possibly that might not be the case, and that's to me a bit of a knock. Anyways, 35-year-old. Oh, I think you'd recognize it as the same family for sure. A little more almost floral and a little more light caramel. But in contrast with the 19, less spicing coming up. Spicing on the 19 comes up pretty quick. All right, moving to, to a Canadian Club. Now this 40-year-old, released at 45%, is actually, from what I've read, 100% corn. Canadian Club normally has ratios of corn, barley, and rye, but that this is just a corn whiskey, really old, 40 years old. Boy, maybe we're going on a trajectory. I think you'd still recognize it as a bit of a sweeter Canadian spirit. In this arrangement, some fruit came up on that one this time. I was about to say that about here, but it is, certainly the lightest, kind of gentle nose of the 3 that we've gone in so far. So the last one up today is Canadian Club 41-year-old. So that came a year after this 40-year-old release. And this definitely brings in that 909% or that 1 out of 11 casks rule that can happen in Canadian whiskey, because while this has 41-year-old corn as its absolute backbone, they've added sherry and cognac and rye, younger than that age. In contrast to these 4, the fruit notes are going to come up pretty much right away. Yeah, and just because I've been working my way through these, I think you'd still get some light vanillas. Yeah, you would. A little more floral nature, but right now I'm getting from a light kind of a raisin into a little more fruit cocktail. So definitely fruit notes are going to come up on this right away. Let's taste some whiskey. It's coming back all the way to the seasoned oak, 19-year-old from JP Wiser. Nice spicing. It really feels like a rye in this comparison. Cheers. Oh, that spiced up my tongue pretty quickly. Almost a prickly spice. So you do get some peppering, but you also get some, I have to think it's a wood spicing, the way it's kind of grabbing my tongue. Getting a kind of a dried fruit, an older etchy wood, a dried wood, not quite musty, but that kind of impression. Lots of oak on the early finish. And the finish looks like it's going to play in between that oak and that caramel. Very tasty. That's just a sip, but I liked it. Really played into a spicing up front on my tongue though, like it's, well, on the sides of my palate, and finished into a strong oak. Maybe I shouldn't have started with that. I did it in terms of age, but that spicing might be hard to kind of clear out. Going to JP Weiser, 35-year-old. Believe this was, and I don't know if this is the 2018 or 2019 release. I know there was slight variation between those two because Quig didn't say. Just said 35-year-old, 50%. You can put it down below in the comments. We'll see what we get out of the whiskey. At 50%, I guess it's only 2% more, but it's still more gentle almost on the nose. That's a great whiskey. Butter tarts. The sweetness, a well-supported maple sweetness. It's not running away. Some spicing, but not just peppery on the edges. More cooked baking spices, but supported in a, I've said this a lot lately, but like in a crust. Little bit of bitterness, but not unpleasant in this situation. It kind of feels like it's giving it depth. Oak is quite different than the 19-year-old. It's not a raw, well, not raw, but I don't know. It just seems balanced. Wow, that is a tasty whiskey. Really good. Great structure. Oh, if you have access to these Canadians, maybe you can get it on a good price. I know these are all kind of costly drams, but that's just head and shoulders above some of the Canadians I've been drinking lately. Heading over to the 40-year-old. What a gorgeous bottle, eh? Like it comes in a bag. Oh, I put that. It's in a bag, in a box. You know, it's got this really nice metal top, corking, and it's laser etched on the back. It's definitely, if you saw, this was a gift at Christmas quite a while ago, and it's been hard for me to drink it. Who is it that was saying that? I can't remember, but one of my friends in YouTube, a fellow YouTube channel, was saying how, you know, we have these nice whiskeys and then it's hard to drink them because I don't go to the store and pick up $250 bottles very often, as in I haven't since then. Well, that was a gift, but I just tend not to drink in that category. So lots of great whiskeys have come and gone since then. 40-year-old, just corn. Much lighter than the last two. Flowery, sweet. There I got a little bit of almost a bready note. Interesting. It's probably a good thing I haven't poured that too much. It's 45%. What a beautiful whiskey. It coats nicely. It's a light fruit. Gentle as heck. That is, yeah. And there on the finish, just a little bit of, I get when I'm drinking straight up corn. Even from Highwood, I have a bottle of their 20-year-old open. And actually that kind of reminds me of that. A little bit of that really light fruit, high sweet, lots of vanilla. And there a little bit of cask spicing came through, but it took its time. That is a very gentle, delicate whiskey. Very gentle. Could easily drink far too much of that in the sense that you don't get any kind of abrasion or something that might slow that down. But slowing down, I think you'd actually find some good secondary flavors. Now I'm getting, even just talking, right? Now I can feel it start to pick up. Oh no, there is a bit of wood spicing in here. There's a little bit more going on than just very, very gentle coating, light, sweet, gentle, floral whiskey. Boy, that is beautiful. Curious, heading all the way to the 41-year-old. So 41-year-old, as I said, this is the 40-year-old, aged a year longer. And they collapsed the cask. So what I understood was throughout the years, you know, because there's quite a bit of angel share and evaporation out of 40 years of aging, they didn't just keep it in the barrels getting down and down and down, because the exposure to oxygen would be very, very significant. So I don't know how often, but they would, you know, collapse, like, okay, let's take these 2 barrels, put them into one, so now it's full again. And then when that goes down, now we'll put them into one. But the point is, you know, to keep the exposure to air lower as this creeps up, you know, to age something into 40, now 41 years. But this has some sherry, cognac, and rye that's younger than that added to it. Continues my early nosing notes that it's got more fruit than the others. And the palate departure. I inhaled there. I don't know if you saw on camera, like, and actually I had the echoes of exactly that high sweet corn that I was getting from this, or high sweet old whiskey. Well, for me, it's corn, and it's totally there. And now that I'm talking, I'm getting it right back. But the splash in the palate spoke far more of the fruiting, little bit of spicing coming from the additions. Wow, Foodquig, thank you for all of these samples. This is definitely spicier again. This is coming to interplay somewhere between here. Might even, like, it's not as spicy as the 19, but it's whatever kind of rye they've put in here on the tongue. It's a bit of a peppery oak, a bit of a peppery old tea coming up. I can definitely get the corn. I didn't get it till I got that breathe in, and then I got it talking. I'm like, oh, okay, now I got it. This is still the majority of what's going on in there, but it has palate changed quite a bit with that addition. I suppose in some respects it's gained complexity because of the additional spirits in there. Certainly the different flavors come pretty hard and pretty quick. But I would love to spend an evening sipping through this and really trying to get at what are the different barrels over 40 years given this whiskey. It does not come hard and fast in the palate. It really doesn't. But there is still quite a bit going on to this whiskey that I just enjoy. Haven't poured much of it. I've loved it from day one and still think it's one of the best Canadian bottles I have ever had. This is an incredibly short comparison. This is the only dram I've had of the 41-year-old. Clearly it has at one moment more flavors. The 40-year-old to me is still a little more interesting. If you're still with me, I hope you're on your second pour, because this is probably a very long video. And I know that most people drop in for like 5 minutes, but this is sort of a gift to me as well on Canada Day. Oh, this is good. Wow. That added, this kind of stood out, but I got a little bit of my favorite Lot 40 in there, I think. If you're a longtime viewer, you know Lot 40 rye for me sings my tune. There's something about Yeah, there. Ooh. I don't want to wash it out with water. That's the 35-year-old. That is tasty. I don't know when I've thought of a 19-year-old as the young whiskey in the lot, but it is. There's a lot of oak in there. Not cut sawwood. Drying, actually. I didn't want to grab water. Wanted to see how that finished. Fairly drying. Wow. As I said, hope you guys have poured something so that actually the video is enjoyable for you. I would rank rather than rate. Today in this pouring, sitting here on the deck, it's kind of rainy, but I'm okay with that. Nice and cool. I think the 35-year-old today actually outshone the 40-year-old a little bit for me. It had a really nice depth of flavor. The rye spice was there, but didn't overwhelm. Then the 40-year-old, I just enjoy the almost subtle complexity of this. Even though it's just straight corn, barrels are pretty well used, I think. There is something to this one that continues to delight my palate. 35, then 40. Then I'd go over to the 41. The flavors were a nice addition for me. I'm not sure I don't know. They're good, but in direct comparison, I like this one quite a bit more. And then the 19. The 19 is fun. I'm very thankful I've been able to taste it here. I was really trying to chase down a whole bottle, so I could actually do a really good review. In this contrast, I've only sipped it kind of twice. It is almost aggressive. In this lineup, it is aggressive, I would suggest, and like my tongue feels almost burnt from the spicing and the wood tannins and whatnot. I still like it. I imagine, and I didn't do that to any of them, splash of water to open up a little bit and get at some of the other layers of the oak. Might do it some justice, or pour it over rocks, something like that. Thank you for staying with me. What a lineup. Thank you again, Foodquig, for the samples. You're a gentleman. And I feel incredibly blessed both to be part of Canada. I'm always feeling quite blessed to be part of Canada. I think we have many things, our education system, our health system, really help support all of us. Now during the COVID pandemic, I have been very thankful for where we are. Most people taking it as seriously as they should, staying away, washing, wearing masks. These things are really actually fairly easy for us to do, and I'm glad that most of us are doing them. And I hope more of us take it seriously. This is not a hardship. I can go down to Tim's, get some masks with my coffee. It's not even a big expense, and I think it'll help us all out. I wish you all the best. Wherever you are, I hope you have some fantastic whiskey to share like this with yourself. Moment on the deck, with family if they're close at hand, or friends if you're able to do that safely. Have a great and fantastic Canada Day. We'll see you on the next video.